Record. Oh, sorry guys, I just need the Facebook Live thing to happen. Waiting for live video. Okay. Trying to do two things at once. Just hold on a sec, please.
The sun is shining in your face very beautifully, Sara.
I arranged it like that. I called the gods and was like, hey guys, gotta make me look good. Oh, sorry guys.
We're about to go live, so please close the door, please. Like, shush. I'm sending instructions.
Okie dokie. Right, so let's kick off, and let me welcome everybody who's joining us this evening for our last panel discussion about the exhibition entitled An Exhibition in Several Acts, a Lexigram of Ideas. This evening's conversation is being hosted by Maria, who is the curator of this specific exhibition, with the participating artists in what has been termed Act 3. So we've had a series of panel discussions, and we have gone through Act 1 and Act 2, and this specifically is focusing on Act 3. The exhibition concludes itself on the 29th of November and is in the space of the Meta Foundation, which is the 4th floor of August House. And we have been very grateful and blessed to have been working with Maria on this project. And we hope that this evening's conversation provides a deeper kind of in-depth review of the exhibition for people who are interested in knowing more about the artists in their individual capacity, about their ideas and how they have come about their work. So on that note, I'm going to hand over to Maria to guide us through this conversation, and to our participating artists, Bambo Sebia, Percy Maimela, Roland Gunst or John J. Cobra, and Inyakalo Maleke. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. Please ask questions if you have any questions for us, and we will try and get the artists to the best of their ability to respond. Take it away, Maria.
Thank you. Good evening to the viewers and potential viewers of this exhibition. The show, An Exhibition in Several Acts, a Lexigram of Ideas. I need to give a bit of background to those who are joining us for the first time, even though it might be a bit repetitive, is in essence a focus on the practice of a selected number of artists, 6 from specifically August House. And the concept behind the show focused on ways and means of creating conversations, given the vast array of production, artistic production within this institution, this incredible space. And yeah, without further ado, as Sara has mentioned, the artists are Roland Gunst, Inyakalo Maleke, Percy Maimela, and Bambo Sebia. So the the show centered around the idea of conversations. We decided to use the analogy of theater, whereby different conversations had different thematics. The first one, which was Roland Gunst and Johann Stegmann, was titled, it was titled Practices of Being. The second one was titled, which was the two female artists in the show, Nyakalo Maleke and gosh, I'm blanking at the moment, and
Grace
Mokalapa, was titled Contemplations and Monologues and Contemplations, and the third one, Metamorphosis, which includes the vast array of intermixing some of the artists that were part of previous conversations. So it is open. It opened on the 8th and finishes, as Sara mentioned, on the 29th of November, and it is situated on the 4th floor. The project was supported by Krista D and Sara Hallatt in somewhat curatorial capacity, and exists in the format, in two formats. One is a physical showing, and the second one is a virtual tour, of which you can see the first lenses, in a sense, that describe the conversation. Metamorphosis. And Metamorphosis try to direct the viewer into looking at art, speaking to shifts, changes, and how that is portrayed artistically. At the moment, what you see on the left-hand side is the work by Percy Maimela, a striking work of a man who's kneeling and a bird, in a sense, going for him. Whilst on the right-hand side, you can see the work by Bambo Sebia. The display also continues, and what you can see here is Percy Maimela, Nyaki, and Roland Gunst, with in the far background, with a video work titled "The Virgin and the Lion." And I'm showing you basically shots of the installation views in an attempt to give you a sense of how the layout features. And here all four artists are showcased. These are image shots from the virtual tour. But here is a work by Percy called Broken Hope. Percy is a self-taught artist who has an incredible capacity to illustrate the physique, and at the same time a very emotive way of introducing ideas around hope, ideas around faith and chance, and how individuals, he urges in a sense through his work, how individuals ought to take and grab the opportunities that present themselves. But let me give it over to Percy to perhaps describe a little bit more his practice, which is mainly situated within painting and drawing. Go ahead, Percy. Hi.
Oh, hey, hi, guys. Percy Maimela here. I can't see myself. Yeah. Oh, can you guys see me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's awesome. So my name is Percy Maimela, the visual artist, a painter, mostly known for the salt art, and recently received the Guinness World Record for the largest coffee ground art that we did in Santon in 2000. Oh, last year, before all this, before the situation we're on now. So my practice has been, since I've moved into conceptual art, it's been about mostly reflecting from where you come from, and then also trying to see where you are and the situation you are in, and then also trying to transform or improve via seeing the work that I do. So most of the time, people think my work are a bit of dark art. I don't know. Well, it sounds like a dark magic or something, but they say it's a bit of darkish or what. But the thing is now, it's not. I'm not trying to do dark art. I'm trying to confront the reality, the truth, because for me, I believe that eventually we all pass through this journey of life, and then we need to live something that impacts or changes lives. So if I take this superpower that I have and then try to mimic or make something that looks nice, and well, it's nice for your home, it's beautiful, but then in the next 3 generations, can that piece provoke and try to improve lives? That's what I'm trying to capture in most of my artwork. So most times you'll see there's a dice in the artwork which resembles it's actually chances in life, also risks that you have to go through to change your life. And it depends on the artwork, the story that entails in the artwork. It might be good or bad story, but this particular piece that you guys are looking at is titled Broken Hope. If I don't know if it's possible to zoom or what, but there's a bed just behind the guy. The bed the bed was carrying the dice, so the bed was bringing the dice to the guy. So the bed was actually bringing hope and all these chances to this guy. But in its journey to the guy, the bed had ran into something, and then it eventually died. And then the dice that was carried by the bed had actually broken. So now this piece is where people tend to dwell in their misfortunes, and they don't realize that within that misfortune there's actually some bit of a chance or some bit of alteration to your future, into the brighter future. So if I'm not sure if you guys are able to see the ground, the cracked ground. So when you see the cracked ground, so there's actually there's like dice. If you take a deeper look, if you don't dwell in your problems and look around your surroundings, you'll actually see the possibilities. So the guy, instead of looking at the possibilities, he's actually holding his head and then stressing about the situation. But had he looked around and not be scared, he would see that, oh, there's more chances in this world. So the surface is actually made out of chances. There's like dices somewhere there, and there's a house. Yeah, so it's far.
Yeah, I can see people.
Yeah, there's actually people. So those people are living their life, but now because you are actually taking yourself outside of the reality, and then dwelling in the problem, now you tend to freeze your moment instead of enhance to your betterment. So that's me. So most of my work, you'll have to. It's not for everyone. It's not happy art, but it's for people who are willing to face their reality and see how they can actually enhance their future from their past.
Yeah, there's something very disarming in terms of the nudity of the character that you have depicted. But also, Percy, can you speak a little bit about the fact that in a lot of your work, you tend to obscure the faces rather than present a given image in the likeness of a face? I mean, there's a lot of debate about the depiction, and and I find it quite intriguing that you have obscured both the bird and the principal character here, if we are to assume that the principal character is the figure. So yeah, the dice and the obscuring a face tends to feature a lot in your work. Can you elaborate a little bit about that?
Okay, so I'm from traditionally I used to do like commissions which I was based mostly in like portraiture, which I'm good at portraiture. But then I found that most of the time when you do portraits and then you master the face, then people tend to forget about the story. They look at the identity, which causes more war. I believe that because of our identities, we tend to forget that we are here for a much greater purpose. So that's when you find people fighting because of color or because of their race or because of like they try to be better than the others. that's because of they look at their individual identity. But this thing is way more than just one identity. So I wanted something that will actually move us away from focusing on who did what or who I painted, but have like see the whole story within the picture. So now I came up with a mask, which is the mask represents like it's a totem that represents life in totality. So it's like I believe life there's like the past and there's the present, there's the future. So in the mask, the lines that you see, so there's the mask is aerodynamic and it has lines that look like a fingerprint. So those lines actually represent your heritage, which is your history, like your DNA, because you cannot create your DNA. So it has to come from somewhere. So that means your life is actually a progression of something that is bigger than your present self. So that's actually the past. And then the present is that you are within the mask. So you are actively doing something. And then the shape of the mask is aerodynamic in a sense that it points to whoever the character that's within the mask, it points to the future. So it's aerodynamic in a sense that it makes it easier for whoever is within the mask to progress or to move forward or to fly if they wanted to fly. So that's me actually moving away from individual identity, but making you as someone who's looking at the artwork have a direct connection with the artwork, because now it's not like Percy drew himself or Percy drew a picture of Mandela, but it's this figure that is going through this situation. So how is this relevant and how is this in connection with my situation? So that's why I came up with the mask. Hopefully I'm clear on that.
You are. You've come across quite clearly.
I have one question.
Yes.
Yes, Roland.
Yes, Percy. I mean, I know you work a little bit, not enough, but I find it really interesting. I just wondered, the mask, is it made, what is it made from? Sorry, is that a wood or paper, or does it even matter?
So the initial idea is wood. So the thing is, everything within you is life, and then wood comes from something that is alive actually. So it comes from trees, and which every tree also has its own DNA where it inherited from somewhere, because the tree comes from a seed which comes from another tree. So it's like a progression. We could.
Sorry, I'm struggling with technology here. I'm trying to mute and unmute. Well, absolutely. It is clear. And yes, throughout our discussions, your mentioning of the wood and how the veins of the wood, in essence, also depict the fingerprint and the lines that we find visible in our fingerprints is a very interesting moment. This is, in essence, in a slight stark contrast to Bambo's work, which also features, but again speaks to ideas of metamorphosis in the sense of possibilities, and that despite the compositions depicting somewhat troubling scenarios of some sort of abuse and family drama, the works which are a liner cut. The first one is obviously obscuring some of the faces, but again, you place quite obviously the characters that are depicted in those images. Can you tell us a little bit about you, Bambo, and about your practice? I will kind of go between the two images. Can you go and speak to it and perhaps add a little bit about the work that is currently being presented within the show?
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the invite. Hi, everyone. I'm Bambo Sebia, originally from Guatemala in Springs. I was trained as a printmaker at Artist Pro Studio. Also done graphic design and painting, just like visual art. I mean, like with the works that I actually exhibited in the current exhibition, it's a portfolio that I did, like few years ago. I used to talk about the general issues that are affecting women in South Africa. In most cases, you actually find women talking about women. It's usually rare, getting like a man's perspective around women's life. So at some point while I was doing my third year, we were actually pushed to talk about social issues. So I wanted to talk about something that I know, something that has affected me, as a young man, or something that I've experienced in my surroundings. So being raised by a single parent, which is a woman, I've learned so much about her powers, about the strength, about her being a pillar of the house, about her having to, go through certain, um, uh, can I put it, certain, all right, endure, certain situations, to make sure that we grow to be, like really important individuals in our society to impact a positive change, as a young man. So in these two works, I'm actually looking at the women, okay, if we can go on one of them, the specific one that you just pulled up. Okay, yeah, that one. You see a woman carrying a man. She just, I mean, initially the idea was like a woman fetching her husband from a shebeen, and there's kids around. Obviously, there's a community like looking. The idea, it's, I'm not looking at abuse. I'm not looking at, the embarrassment that she has to go through, but I'm looking at the strength. I'm looking at how she has the courage of doing it. Also she's doing it with pride. Women stay in different situations or difficult relationships or house our marriages because of different reasons also. Some of them, they want to keep the family together, which is a very important aspect in the African culture. So it shows how much power they have, how much they're willing to go through to make sure that everyone is okay, everyone is fed, everyone is happy. So I was just looking at what happens in our communities, in our surroundings, the issues that we face in a daily basis, but how women are able to kind of like come out with solutions, and carry us as a community, you know. So I mean, like, with my medium, usually, I mean, in this portfolio, I use lino cut, and they're very big and bold, black and white. It's they look like billboards. It's very hard to like walk by and not notice them. I just wanted that idea to like kind of like put the issue out there and show it with pride, like that our women are important. They play a very important role in African culture. We always say that a man is the head of the house, and um, so as a head of the house, you're supposed to lead, protect, and provide. But you find a woman playing all those roles, and we tend to forget that a head, because we usually call the woman as necks. They call it neck. Um, a head without a neck can't function. You know, so we need the neck to function. So I find the neck playing a very important role of carrying this heavy burden, this heavy head, or the thinker, the brain, the engine, but like this heavy engine has to be carried by something, which is the neck. That is why we're able to turn, and look behind you, look at your side or whatever, but you need the neck to function. You need the woman, so yeah, with these works, I was just trying to show the power behind the female, um, the female figure. Remember, you just asked about covering the head with one of their works. There's two females there. If you can look close, there's two female figures. There's the one that is covered, and there's another one behind. So initially when I did this work, I was thinking about how we usually, you know, when you get a new shoe, you usually like discard of the old, you know, get rid of it, or you like rather ignore it. I was talking about polygamy, and I mean, like we in African culture, or in the Zulu culture, men are allowed to like take more than one wife, but as soon as you get the other one tend to be ignored, you know. Then all the issues that are happening in the house, kids are not allowed to kind of like participate or to witness. As much as you see what's happening, or you can see your mother crying or whatever, you know, they tend to not tell us the real story or what's really happening. You know, that is why I have these kids facing backwards. You know, they're not part of, they are part of the issue, but they're not allowed to kind of like participate, you know, because of the age. So the idea was, you know, it's a family where there's, you know, like a new wife that has been introduced, and the old one has just been ignored, just been covered. She's not important, or she's not beautiful anymore. Whatever you can, you know, like come up with when you're looking at this image, but she's kind of like hidden, and the new trophy is standing behind this powerful man. You know, she's the man behind. I mean, she's the woman behind the man now. You know, so that was the idea around these two words.
Yeah, there is something poetic about the fact that, you know, part of Metamorphosis is also the implication in terms of the viewer, that one thing is what you immediately see, and potentially the reading could evolve into all sorts of other possibilities. And what I mean by poetic is the fact that despite the somewhat difficult images that you portray, there is definitely a degree of strength in the main character of the female that you depict. Yeah, which is how and why the works were quite fitting for the title of Metamorphosis. So I would like to progress a little bit further into the display. And the next work is by Nyakalo Maleke. It's titled Shine Your Light. And this is the third work that features in the exhibition. I do find that there's quite an apt kind of motion and movement between the second act, which was Monologues and Contemplations, and even the first one of Strategies of Being, because this abstraction versus the very literal presentation of images also offers ways of viewing and reviewing ideas of how one reads work. And from Nyaki's practice and what I have understood to be her trajectory, Nyaki tends to write short stories. And again, here, there is an evolution somehow into, if one is to read the work from left to right, in the sense of how we tend to read works or literature or text. Nyaki, can you speak a little bit about this work, Shine Your Light? And again, elaborate for the audience that didn't perhaps listen to the last conversation about your practice and what it entails. Within Act 2, you spoke around ideas of vulnerability, and how these are expressed in this form of abstraction, and the kind of intuitive nature within which you tend to make marks.
Hi guys. Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of my practice is really influenced by writing, thinking about ways of thinking about ways of translating text without necessarily using words. And a lot of my previous works, I had these various, I work with thread and wax paper. And so a lot of the earlier drawings that I did were really abstract pieces that were trying to speak about a particular place or space, personal, and sometimes public. And I guess with Shine Your Light, this was a little bit more different, partly because this was the beginning of where I was starting to introduce figures or figurative characters. I think when I was starting to make the work, the first stages of this piece really were the very tiny, detailed, very haphazard pieces of thread that you see in the background. And then in the foreground is the characters and the bits of yellow that start to become very prominent in the drawings. I think in one of our earlier conversations, when you were still trying to investigate sort of the narrative behind that story, I kind of said to you that like, I can't really pinpoint what the actual narrative really was about. But then recently on my blog, I had written like a small text around projecting different ideals and like sort of ideas that have become quite, that start to follow in my work a little bit, ideas around community, ideas around people, space, how to kind of reimagine the present. And I think this is what this piece was. It was a kind of projection, a kind of a projection on movement, a projecting on movement, projecting on these very weird characters that don't really make sense. And really just figuring out how to organize them in the context of the drawing. And I think in the previous conversation, I tried to speak about how a lot of this, I'm interested in journaling and again, writing. So I'm always interested in finding out how I can speak about things that are happening around me without necessarily pinpointing them to me specifically or directly. And I think this was one of, it was also a very playful process. Yeah, I think I answered your question, I think. But yeah, this was where I was starting to, it was really the beginning of introducing figures, introducing color, but still being consistent with textures and the very dense layers of thread.
Nyaki,
it has something of a star map, like a, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Carry on.
Yes. So for me, it has something, when you see the whole sheet, it has something of a sky map, with planets, universes, and like also like a mind map.
Yeah. I mean, interestingly,
Phones off, please.
I don't know if I cut Roland off, but yeah, a lot of people have really said what you have picked up on that kind of reading. They pick up landscapes, they pick up astrology, which is quite an interesting reading. Other people who've seen the work have also picked up rock painting as well, the characters in the rock paintings. So I guess it also could speak to kind of like an influence of seeing a certain kind of representation and having that follow you and be part and I guess find its way into the work. But yeah, I think I appreciate a lot of the various interpretations of each piece of the work. I mean.
Nyaki, your earlier work was darker in the sense that less detail was placed in it. This is quite saturated with thoughts and marks and representations. Do you think that perhaps speaks to a shift, or am I misreading the projection or the trajectory that the work is taking?
Yeah, no, you're not misreading it at all. I think this was the beginning stages of a shift. I think also I'm trying to negotiate whether or not I want to be literal in the works that I'm making. And I'm also quite content. I think I'm concluding that I enjoy the abstract practice more. So there is a lot of shifting negotiating between images, forms, textures, colors.
What is interesting about your work is the fact that you could also see a background to it.
Yeah.
The marks, I guess the translucency of the paper also provides that. So the material that you have chosen, again, not only speaks to ideas of mark making and multidimensionality and vulnerability, but also visually is incredibly enticing in that, yeah, it asks, or at least I hope it asks of the viewer to look at two-dimensionality and three-dimensionality within two-dimensional images.
Yeah.
And this kind of also poignant use of a lot more blackness in order to highlight potential spots and for the eyes to veer around.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
very, very, yes, go ahead.
No, I was just saying carry on. I resonate.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, definitely. I think also the entire page, I think my interest really is trying to interrogate the idea of drawing and what does that really mean? It's not just really the type of material that you're working with to draw directly on the sheet, but it's really also like I'm taking into consideration what happens with the creases, what happens with these weird fold marks, essentially the entire drawing, like all these elements that make up the drawing really are important. And some of the intentions are very deliberate. And these weird, I mean, there's one image that you zoomed into that showed like a green stain, but just, I think if you go back, or not even this one, you can see just a bit, but I think it's still there, but there's a touch of green, which is like a green ink, because I was trying to introduce ink, and that wasn't responding quite well because of the surface that I was working with. And so there are these moments where I'm really deliberate with erasing these mistakes. And then there's those materials that persist and really do stay, or try to stay, at least, like the charcoal. So I'm very interested in seeing how those materials really are responding with each other.
That's a very interesting thing that you've just mentioned, this idea of kind of introducing and then erasing, because it doesn't compositionally work. Percy, because you too tend to have figurative work that, and I mean, the question is also addressed to Bambo, I guess. But you gentlemen, do you allow for error to be present in your final works, in your compositions?
For error?
For what?
Are you saying error?
Yeah, error. Yes, okay. I am saying error. Yes.
Okay.
I am saying, in an attempt to almost, when I say error, I also mean it loosely, in the sense that as much as you plan and compose composition, there are these almost haphazard moments that happen. Okay, we might maybe not term them errors, but it's something that you might explore that you have decided that ultimately, no, it doesn't work in the composition. Maybe I need to remove it. Do you allow for traces of previous marks prevail?
For me personally, I don't believe there's an error. I'll tell you a story. So there was a piece that I did at home. So it's a piece of a buffalo. So I was doing it, and it was laying on a table. So it's a newly built garage. So now it's raining. So when it's raining, I'm going to the house. And then when I got to the house, the following day, my uncle calls me and say, "Hey, brah, it was leaking, and then your whole artwork is damaged." And then when I got to the artwork, so it had all like this water on top of it. So now it's a buffalo. I'm drawing a buffalo. And then when I saw it, I was like, no, it might look like it's damaged. Let me leave it for a minute. I'll come back. Maybe God is trying to do something. So
Yeah.
I left it, and then it dried out. And then I came back after, I think, a day. When I came back, it had all these effects that I will never do again. But for me personally, I felt like it's an edition like that. That is an awesome moment. So I think most times I think, unless if you are drawing from a reference, you can call it an error. But if you are drawing from something else, it's no longer just you doing an art piece. If the art piece is spiritually taking care of itself, so just go with the flow. That's what I believe.
But then what you're saying, or my understanding of what you're saying, is that it's a question of the context within which it happens. So it will not be an error, but it's something that has happened to it, and then you allow for it to evolve in it. But ultimately, in some cases, it doesn't work.
Yeah, but if I were to draw your face the way you want your face, then now and then if that happens, it's going to be an error. But if I'm producing a generic artwork that's like out of the blue, or just it it has its own soul. So you don't have to force things to happen. If a mistake happened that you split, you had a juice on top of your artwork, that orange juice is part of the artwork. Once you try to totally erase that thing, then you are actually removing part of the artwork. I believe so.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that taking risks, sometimes trying something that is less well constructed of studied, just trying out things. I find it very fulfilling to think that it might be a mistake, but just going further and further and deeper in that way, and finding out that you've produced something totally unexpected, and that's really exciting.
Yeah,
I mean, all the great people, they come from some sort of mistake. A lot of people who are great, they were fired from their job, or they didn't find a job, or something bad happened, and then they had to evolve from that. So that's when they became great.
yes, but this, you're right, because this brings me to this idea of okay, perhaps the term that I'm using ought to shift and change, and it shouldn't be an error, or it shouldn't even be called a mistake. But it's what you tend to explore, Percy, is the fact that within something not necessarily planned or a mishap, there is always opportunity. So instead of looking at it as an adversity, always look at it as the possibility of an opportunity. And I guess this is what I'm also talking about with Nyaki, in that, she tried to introduce an element into the work, and she decided that no, it doesn't work, but remnants of it remain.
Yes. So those remnants are part of the artwork.
Precisely, and these moments is what I'm asking whether you allow within your work, because I do recall a conversation in your studio, and us talking about a condition report or moments like that, and what you said, it's part of it. It's part of the work. It stays there. You don't need to mark it. It is what it is, and it evolves. It stays there. It might be an accident. It might be an opportunity. It might be, and that evolution, also become somehow transparent in the compositions.
Yes, and again, it takes you back. Sorry, Bamboo. Just a second. It takes you back to the piece, Broken Hope. So if you check Broken Hope, if you dwell in the idea that this is a problem, now you don't get to see what is around, like the surroundings. So don't dwell in the problem. See how it improves you. Because some problems are here to improve us, but we just dwell and say, Bamboo is pissing me off, but Bamboo was meant to grow me.
Right.
Bamboo, I wanted to, the reason why I mentioned you is also you, despite the fact.
Yes, I'm listening.
I think she froze.
Yeah, she froze. I can't.
Having a technical error. I'm sorry. Let's see what's going on. Apologies, everybody.
So meanwhile, we can sing that new song that Magogo is singing. What is that song, Bamboo? Oh man, that's talent.
Right. We have so much material to talk about, Jay.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot. Like South Africans have so much to say.
Lockdown or no lockdown, man, we still have a lot production,
Irrespective of anything that happens, man. Bad politics become artworks.
Right. Hey, man.
You know what they said about Donald Trump, all the comedians?
Yeah.
They said, like, they never had to work. All their stuff was there for them.
He literally did everything for them. They just had to come to report to work, and then Donald Trump, and then we know.
Maria's back. Maria's back. Sorry, everybody.
Please apologize. Yeah, connectivity.
Okay. Yeah.
Lost your screen also, Maria. You're going to have to reshare.
Okay.
I can see you.
Apologies to everyone. So here is the screen. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what I lost, but yeah, maybe you can recap, Bamboo. I don't know whether you got a sense of my question.
No, you're still asking. Can you repeat? Like you froze.
Yeah. So in.
But yeah, I did get. I mean, I did get what you were asking initially. For me, it works in two ways, basically. You know, when I'm doing a print, it's you can't really control a print. You know, even if it's an etching or a lino cut, you don't really see what's going to be the end product. You know, you work. Number one, you work in reverse. Number two, you don't know. You know, each and every line that you're putting there, each and every scratch that you adding into the plate, what's going to be the outcome, you know, when you print. So it's always like a surprise, you know, like to see the end product. So for me, I usually, you know, when I do printmaking, whenever I have I bend my plate more than I wanted, or when I scratch it deeper more than I wanted, and when you print, you find that, you know, the plate is darker than what you intended it to be. You can obviously like try reverse it, but you can't get it, you know, like as clean as it was before you scratched it. So I usually call those happy accidents, you know, because I always like still get the outcome that I'm looking for, or I become happy. You know, I've tried to maneuver it, but like I always, you know, like make it work. It's a happy accident. But when it comes to my drawings, like my multimedia drawings, I control everything personally. I make sure nothing goes there that is not supposed to be there. You know, I control like each and every line, each and every brush stroke. You're saying?
So there are no happy accidents.
There's no happy accidents. You know, I put it on the wall, make sure it sits there. Everything. I control everything. I control everything. So it's different when I'm doing printmaking. When I'm doing printmaking, I'm more loose, and free-spirited, you know, like I don't know what's going to be the outcome. I don't know what's going to be the end product. It's more fun. I still enjoy, you know, with my drawings and, you know, my multimedia drawings, but I hardly have anything that is not supposed to be there. I don't.
Can you elaborate for the audience what you mean by multimedia drawings?
So I do. It's mixed medium. I use charcoal, acrylic. Actually, I use anything that I can put on that I can pin onto the canvas, you know, which is archivable and it's gonna sit there forever. So I don't have like a specific, you know, medium or like material that I use in my works, in my drawings. So it could be like, you know, like just watercolor, could be like children's, you know, dust pigments that I use. Anything that I can, you know, come across and use it as material. So I keep exploring with each and every piece, because it's still like, it still feels like a trial and error method with each and every piece. But you know, like everything it's like really well controlled. And I usually, like, before I can add like a different material, I try it on the side. You know, I try it on the side. I have, like, you know, like usually like small canvases that are sitting, that are cut and put them aside for me to test on them before I can add, you know, that material onto my own canvas. So yeah, it's just multimedia.
There's a lot more control that is exercised in
Yeah, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But like when it comes to printmaking, it's just it's loose, it's free, it's very much playful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I have both worlds, you know, with my techniques.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Well, I would like to now move to Roland's work. I would really like to encourage viewers to take a look at the full video, which is not very long, called The Virgin and the Lion. And Roland's practice is very autobiographical, and it focuses on all sorts of ideas around hybridity and multiracial existence, hence the first act of the exhibition, also called Strategies of Being. But this particular video was included in this third act because iconographically it really speaks very much to the Flemish background that Roland comes from, and at the same time the kind of Christian ideology that had been spread throughout the world. Obviously, the title itself lends this reading as well, The Virgin and the Lion. And the lion is an icon that is used in the Flanders flag, I believe, Roland. Am I correct?
That is correct, yes.
So could you speak to us a little bit about the video? I'm sorry it had to be through stills, but can you reflect on your practice and how it translates in this particular video, and perhaps a potential reading of how it is you interpret Metamorphosis?
Okay. Well, this video is part, I've been doing research around Afro-European identities for several years now. And I got now to a phase where I'm focusing on fluid identities.
Hello? I don't know whether he froze or not.
Yeah, he's frozen.
We're having a frozen moment.
Yeah, we tend to. What a pity.
This is frozen part 3.
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking the song.
Yeah, I was actually looking for a song, so unfortunately I couldn't sing it.
I didn't want to sing it. I didn't want to sing it.
Yeah, somebody needs to break into song.
I think we lost him.
No Disneyland here, please.
But I think we lost him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry about that.
Oh, what a yes.
Sabotage.
No, sabotage, you're back.
No.
Oh yeah, you can continue.
Yeah, thank you. So yes, Belgium. So I'm biracial. I don't like the term race, but I'm just going to use it to make it clear. So I'm from DRC, but I'm also Flemish from Belgium. I'm Afro-European.
Yes.
When we moved from Belgium to Europe, I wasn't recognized as being a Belgian, even if a part of my biology, my culture is Belgian, European.
I don't know whether everybody else is experiencing this, but I am I'm really having trouble hearing Roland.
Oh, I think his signal might be bad. His network. Sorry, I was mute.
Yeah. Oh, what a pity.
We keep losing him.
Are you there, Roland?
But frozen again.
Is it possible that you can move?
I wonder what the problem is.
I don't know.
Wait, maybe I can switch to another. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, maybe if you turn off the camera, perhaps that might assist.
Roland, we move on to something else and then come back.
Well,
okay.
No, Roland, you're there.
I hear you, but I don't see you moving.
Okay, do speak because we can all hear you.
Okay. So yes, so communities all over the world tend to define themselves as something very solid. These are the criteria, the characteristic of our community. And if you don't correspond to this characteristic, you don't belong to us, to our community. So that's what happened with me arriving in Flemish, majorly a white society, where they define me based on what they saw. Me, my skin, my hair, the fact that I was partially African or Congolese. And I wasn't integrated automatically by the Flemish society. And this triggered me, and it triggered a long reflection about how is a human identity defined, by what kind of criteria? Is everything solid or fluid? But if you look, what people tend to forget is that at the origin, human beings are most of all bodies in movement. And it's the same thing with your mind. You're constantly moving, transforming, transiting, in transit. And also in metamorphosis. I don't know what the verb is in English, sorry, but in transition of in change and transformation.
Yeah, to shift and transform for sure.
Yeah, so when you look at an identity, when you look at my video, I represent, it refers to the golden armor from the founding myth of the Flemish community. Yeah, sorry to, just to make it clear, on the Flemish flag, you have a black lion on a yellow background. And that black lion refers to a historical figure who was a knight. According to the myth of the Flemish community, in 1302, that knight appeared on the field, on the battlefield, where Flemish people were fighting against the French conqueror. And that knight was wearing a golden armor. And that knight had superpowers, and he just he just slaughtered the French army, and that's how that the Flemish society and community was built, found. And so referring to that that myths where they used the use of that golden armor, I made a video where you see that golden armor moving like a living organism and being a metaphor for how identity functions. An identity is a living organism that is constantly feeding on identity surrounding that organism. And it means that you constantly take over elements that are interesting to you from other people living next and around you. That's what you do as an artist too. You look around you, and sometimes you recognize something interesting in another artist, and you say, that's an element I need to develop more within my practice. So identity works like that. It's in constant movement and transformation, and there is no end or beginning to that. And the color, the material of that armor it evokes the copper that has been produced in DRC for in traditional ways, of course, for many centuries. But then with the coming of the colonists around 1883, and how they took over the mining business from then on, and used the copper mining, but also rubber, the commerce of rubber, copper, and so on, just to enrich the Belgium as a country over many years. So I'm just using copper here as a reference to a material that historically binds Belgium to Congo, but this time not to represent that Flemish founding myth that talks about pure white identity, but something that is wider and broader, that is more an Afro-European identity, which is fluid and open to differences. It doesn't matter how you look, how you think, what your belief system is, what your values are. We are all living organisms in change and transformation and evolution. And let's cut away all this, the racial thinking, and also class thinking, gender thinking. Is one gender more worth valuable than another? This is all bullshit. We're just human beings in transformations, and open up your arms to integrate elements from other people. And what I love about South Africa is I'm back again close to my Congolese roots. Okay, in kilometers, there is a big distance between the two countries, but still there is some essence of how, living in community and thinking in communities and sharing, exchanging, that's really, I don't know, I've been missing by living in Europe.
Liquidity around transmission of ideas and absorption of ideas. And, which again speaks to a type of shift, a type of evolution, a type of but it's just so interesting because the entire video also really again from a very one-dimensional point of view perhaps can completely be read because the image morphs. And it depicts the Virgin in a very kind of opulent kind of way, which is what Catholicism and many other kind of faiths also alluded to in their adoration for the Virgin. And at the same time, this kaleidoscopic way of looking, kind of Rorschach testy type of looking, shifts, and you can see the image of the lion. I mean, in this very still of the video, you can see a lion that does transmit, kind of like a superhero. At the same time some figure that is ready to fight, while here again, there's so many possible readings, and
it's very science fiction.
Very.
Again, yeah, I get a science fiction robotic reading from
out of it. Yes, and I think that for me, what was really interesting was this juxtaposition between the abstractions and what can be read within abstractions within the medium of drawing using thread, drawing, using chalk, and kind of even drawing using the medium of film or video, and how all sorts of possibilities could be viewed and reviewed in the presentation. I don't know, Percy, do you have anything, any comments, any readings of both Nyaki and Roland's work that you have seen?
I've seen Nyaki's work. I've seen Nyaki's work. I've never seen her. Like every time when I say Nyakalu, I'm like, who's Nyakalu? But can you go back to the picture of Nyakalu? So I wanna tease my friend here, Bamboo. there's actually can you Bamboo, are you here?
He's probably around.
Oh, okay. So
I'm here. So I wanna ask you something. Are you Zulu, right? Right.
Yes. So check after the that third yellow thingy that looks like it's a round thing that is held by a woman. Just by the right side of it. Can you see a Zulu village? Can you see a Zulu village?
I see a
Just
dancing
after.
man.
Yeah, after a dancing man, the leg of the dancing man is like it's in a Zulu village. Can you see that?
It looks like houses that are forming like in like
a circle.
A circle.
Yeah,
and like man.
So I was like,
man in between.
So I was like, this is a tribal thing. Even maybe Nyakalo didn't do it literally, but this is like a tribal thing. Like, so I'm sitting here, I'm like, this is Mambo's place. This one. but I love the idea, and also the concept of using this paper, translucent paper that you can see even in the background. So it gives you leverage of not just working from one perspective, but you also. Even it shows that even your background as a human, besides the artwork, as a human being, like your background. Hence why I say your history, like the mask, the history in the mask. You embody your history regardless of whether you know your history or not. But everywhere you go, like you carry a certain thing that comes from your past, but you might not know. Hence, when it comes to spirituality, they'll tell you about things that you have never experience, but they say, okay, these things are hindering you. But this piece also speaks to that essence that in life is not just about your presence. It's also so what I believe is whatever you do is like you're playing chess. Whatever you do is going to improve or maybe affect maybe 3 generations, regardless of how small the thing you do is. So it's like playing chess. That's how legacies are created. So someone sacrifices or makes moves today, so like 4 generations will manage to eat from there. So this piece, that's what I took from there. Then again, like this, I had a sense of encoding in some way. Like for my personal use, I could like use Nyakalo's artwork to encode some deep secrets. But I love the pieces. And unfortunately, I didn't get to see the video, but I know Roland's work. So like my guy is always on some other level of thinking, yo. So but every time when I get to talk to him, it's like we have that weird moment where we're no longer artists, we feel like scientists creating something.
Yeah, we do have that connection, man.
Like, yeah, every time I go to his studio, it's like, this is weird, bro. Like, this is, whoa, man, this is on some other level. So, but I wanna get to see the video. So, cause like I know his work is always provocative, and I love that about him.
Yeah. Yeah, Bambo, what is your reading of your colleagues' work?
Yeah, you know, recently I've just been, you know, like locked in my studio. You know, I was not even aware that we have like new artists besides, you know, like noticing in our group, but I've never met both of them. I'm not sure if we did. Hey,
Me
so
neither.
it's yeah. I'm uh, I'm looking at his works besides Percy, because you know, like Percy, we've been gangster, but I'm looking at his works. I'm like, am I watching Transformers now? You know, it's really on the other level. You know, on the other level. I think I still want to get to know more about his works. It's really interesting. I can't I can't say much for now, you know, and I happen to have a knock, and I missed you know, like a bit of that conversation when he was explaining about his works. So I happened to had to go and open the gates downstairs.
No problem.
So I'll just make it a point that, you know, I get covered on that aspect. Nyakalo, yeah, it's really interesting. I feel like if looking at your work, if someone has your work on their wall, they will keep discovering something new in a daily basis. It's one work that you can't just look at it at once and get everything out of it. You know, I feel like there's something that's going to pop up now and then. You know, it's there's so much movement. It's very much alive, and as like Piss was saying, your work look like clouds. You know, when you stare at them, you can see things, you can see figures, you can see, you know, there's so much movement. I really impressed. I'm actually like, um, yeah, I think it's, I love it. I don't know, you know, I'm out of words, but it's one work that you would have, and you won't get bored. You always like discover something. There's always something new that's gonna pop up out of it.
I think that all of your work has a multi-dimensionality to it. And this is what I'm trying to convey throughout this conversation, is how one kind of perceives a face value of a two-dimensional image, and how there is so much more background. Of course, the luxury of being with the artist or discussing this with the artist is not always available to a viewer, but one should never ever deem reading or viewing of a work as being just as is. There's always all sorts of potentials and multi-dimensionalities that are required, and hence again the term of the act called Metamorphosis. Nyaki, what are your potential readings or impressions of the collaborative setting that, in essence, the act provided?
Yeah. I was just looking at the first work of Percy's, and the first reference that came into my mind. I don't know if you know the photographic image. He's a photographer from like the Bang Bang Club. He had photographed. It was this iconic image of a child who was being sort of, and there was a vulture on the side. It looked as if it was going for the kid. And so immediately there was that reference coming in, and also the details at the bottom. I didn't notice that until like as he was introducing the work, it popped up to me, and I really do love those breaks in between, like what's happening with the character and the bird, and then what's happening at the bottom with the cracked ground. It's really again, like I think it requires one to really step back and take a moment, because I think like the images that are big and that captured my attention. And I think I need to spend a little bit more time really picking up the individual details that are in there that are so layered. And I think just, again, Percy's work can't be interpreted in just one single narrative as well. I think technically what you're doing, I don't know if it's charcoal, like the fact that you got the smoothness in the body and the feathers, that almost shiny texture, I think is incredible skill. I
Just
think
a round of applause.
yeah, it's like an incredible, it's quite an incredible skill there. And that has to be that has to be acknowledged as well. With Bambo's work, also I was looking at the linos, again, those details are insane. I love details a lot. And also I think the reading of the work is also so layered and so dense, in the sense that, you know, I didn't notice that the characters, like there's a man who looks like he's looking also from the back, but it also has this weird sort of sexist way, like this weird sexist lens. But you know, it's a familiar image that you see when you're in the public space anyway, especially if you're in the townships, where you see the different relationships, the dynamics in family, the dynamics of the woman's role. It's quite interesting, and also the shadows. Like, yeah, that's insane as well. How you got the shadows to fall on the body just through line? I think technically that's also that's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Are you?
No, you can carry on. It's okay.
Yeah. No, can you go back to Percy's image first? What I like about all your artwork, of course, Percy's work and Bamboo's work is very figurative, but I mean, these are images you could use on a theater stage. I mean, they're so strong and expressing a state of mind, you know, social conditions. I mean, and yeah, these are almost like urban myths that are represented. And what's also really interesting in Bamboo's work are if you would take away like the human bodies, you have all these patterns in the fabric. I wonder do they have a specific meaning, because it's like also encoded work, like just as you find in Nyaki's work.
Why? Because of the pattern of repetition? Because of the patterning?
Yes, just, yeah, what's the meaning? Is there a specific meaning? Because there is a lot of work and energy you've put in creating this composition. Yeah.
Right. Not specifically with these works, you know. I think, you know, when we're studying art, I think my major focus was technical, you know. So I remember my graphic designer teacher once said, you know, people will buy anything if it's well packaged. So the beauty behind, or the cutting of the patterns, like, you know, like defining the fabric, I was really trying to package social issues in a beautiful way. You know, so I wanted, like, you know, like to talk about a social issue, but be able also to look at it in a daily basis. You know, I was also like looking on the commercial side. If people are going to be able to live with the image, are they going to be able to hang it on their wall? So it's trying to like balance the issues that I'm talking about and the beauty, and thinking about being a commercial artist, or like being a work that, you know, is going to be commercialized. If people are going to be able to receive it, you know, as a beautiful, you know, beautiful image. I mean, like, I know we don't have to like really beautify everything that you do as an artist, but I think my graphic design training always kicks in whenever I'm creating. You know, I'm still struggling to kind of like separate the two. So I keep adding things and trying to make them more beautiful. Sometimes not necessarily having a specific meaning for each and every stroke that I put in my work.
Mm.
No,
I
but
also I also admire his like, hey, Bambo is like bold when it comes to detail. First time I saw Bambo's work, I was like, okay, I know I can draw, but this one, I. So it's like his technique, the way he took it to the next level, like it's weird, and it's also good because now you can, when you're from, let's say you're from the hood like me, and then you've been drawing your code, but then you get to see Bambo, you see now there's like a new level of this that you've never been experienced to. But then also at the same time, it's like this I've never been experienced to as an art form, but this is like part of my everyday life. As he says that every pattern that are there, all these patterns, like it's patterns that we've seen every day. And then the good thing is that with the Fibonacci's law, you see, you know, those things, the spiral and stuff. With patterns, you will never go wrong as long as you put patterns and then you work with patterns and then they form something. They always end up to something that is like evoking to your emotions. So I admire Bambo's work.
But this speaks to some kind of intimate knowledge of the patterning and the material and the associative thinking about them. So Bambo, can you elaborate a little bit more about your interest in patterning and the materials you use to create these patterns?
Right. So with my patterns, basically, what I was talking about, the general issues that are affecting women, one of the things that are touched, it was raising children, you know, and I used the word paper as a metaphor of a child. You know, in Zulu we always say likotshol semanzi, which means you can shape it in any form if it's wet. You know, like a wet printing paper, you can easily emboss on it, you know, compared to like a dry paper. So I used to like draw these faces of like happy children or like Z, then emboss, you know, around them as an idea of shaping them into a certain form, into you know important individuals in our society, or to become something positive. So that's how they started. But growing also, when my work started evolving into, when I spoke about the mining people, which is my last portfolio, I spoke about the mining people during the apartheid era, where they used to be like packed in one space in hostel rooms, and they all like live together. I mean, like there could be 10 or more, and they all like used to paste pictures of their role models, people they love, families, or you know, pictures, anything that they'll, you know, like really idolize, they will like paste it on the wall. So that for me, it started kind of like creating a wallpaper looking at that. You know, it became, I mean, like when you cover a certain section of your wall with posters or, you know, like pictures, you actually creating a wallpaper of some sort, which is a repetitive pattern. It could be like repetitive pattern of figures or, you know, of color, but like they were creating something like that in my head. Then also when they were allowed to live outside the hostels, where, you know, most of them started like having shacks. A lot of companies used to like throw away, you know, unused wallpaper. It could be like of cool beans, could be, you know, of lion lager. You know, you find like a lot of people covering their shacks, you know, inside their shacks with these wallpapers, like Then also there was this,
I know these roles. I know these roles of patterned multiplied products.
Products, right? Yeah. Then also the vinyl, you know, the plastic vinyl carpet. You know, that was really, really famous. It's still famous now. I mean, they do cover their shacks and the floor also with them. So when I started, like, you know, like also like doing my research, you know, the repetitive patterns started coming back again, and in that form. So that is why they keep appearing now in my work. And also like printmaking on its own as an art form, it is like a repetitive a technique. You know, obviously you reprint the paper, the plate several times, but it's the what you call this, it's graphic on its own, you know. So that's how they were born. Then in fabrics, obviously, like being trained, being a person who was focusing on the technical part of art, of drawing, you know, I really want to make these fabrics look alive. I want them to look as realistic as possible. I'm not really trying to compete with the camera. I think in my head I find I got a balance between, you know, like something that is taken with the camera or like drawn with, you know, like with my technique. As much as they are realistic, you still see the, you know, the art behind them. You still see the brush strokes. You see all these elements, you know, that are supposed to be there as an art form compared to like, you know, like a simple, it's compared to like a simple, you know, like photograph. So most of it came from, you know, like the technical training, where I'm trying to be as realistic. I'm trying to be bold and beautiful, but still getting the message across, you know. And with patterns, especially with like the hostels, men, they kind of like soften up the image, you know, like Zulu people are known, most of them who are occupied the hostels, they known to be violent, you know. So with the clothes and the patterns, it kind of like softens the image. It brings the feminine, I don't know how to put it, but like the soft side of them, you know.
Interesting.
Right.
But also, like, speaking on, just to add on to that point around patterns, like in a lot of African cultures, patterns and geometric shapes were another form of writing, another language. If you think about Esther Mahlangu's Ndebele prints, if you think paintings, if you think also about the Sesotho wall art, ditema, those were pieces that were speaking to landscapes. Geometric shapes really were symbols that were used to speak about what was happening in society. And I think also, Roland, maybe you might resonate with it from the Congolese side, with the what do you call it? The cloths.
Yeah, the mboli mats and so on. Yeah.
So I think these patterns are quite symbolic, and again, it's a language that seems to really be following us in our work. Yeah.
I think a lot of iconography that is selected and elected has intrinsically an ulterior and alternative meaning that almost penetrates our psyche to the point of it being conscious / unconscious. Unconscious, sometimes aesthetic choice, and sometimes incredibly conscious in that it conveys a very particular meaning. But that's, again, that's my projected reading.
I have just one question for Nyaki about the paper you work with. Do you consider that like almost like a human skin, or is it something organic or to you, or is it
artificial? It's not a. It's not a skin, or I don't try to relate it to the human body. It's really just a surface to draw on.
Okay.
But there's something very vulnerable about its very medium.
Yes, definitely. I do enjoy how like how translucent it is. Also, the fact that it tears quite easily. It's really a delicate material to work on. And also with the stretching, with the stitching, like the intensity of the stitches really does pull the paper sometimes. So yeah, but I don't really, it's interesting, but I don't really relate to the body.
Well, on this note, of kind of speaking to materials and things, I do want to draw the attention to everyone that it is 7:30 and we ought to end a wonderful conversation. I really, really hope that everyone has gotten a sense of the layout and the sensibilities behind each and every artist's practice and then presentation within this show. Percy, the last work that we didn't really talk about, which is Between Two Infinities. I mean, in contrast to your earlier work, which was very monochromatic, this almost provides all sorts of possibilities and potentials. And this time, as much as we have said that your work tends to obscure faces, this is you.
Yeah, this is me. Yes. So this is a self-portrait, yes. So
Cool.
this piece is about the stigmas, like the everyday life things, like what will people say? This is done that way. Again, relating to Roland's, where he comes from. When he got there, there were like all these fundamentals of being there, like which he didn't actually fit into because like he was not actually from there. So like now because people have made these rules, now it's not easy for you to become your ultimate self because there's always boundaries. So once you grow up in a place where there's boundaries, automatically if you don't unlock yourself from that boundaries, you become bound to be exactly what the society requires you to be. Hence you become hence now they'll tell you about a real job. You don't have a real job, so that means there's already they consider something a real job and some other things then is not a real job. So there's like they created a boundary from that, so they gatekeeping you from reaching the other side of that. And
a real job is being gainfully employed.
A real job is something that is proven to have a sustainable income in a long term, and then you are assigned to someone. So like if so in saying that, like anyone who has a business, who runs a business, they don't have a real job unless they are employed by that business. So if you start a business, regardless how big the business is, as long as you're not an employee, so you don't have a real job. You might start. So now, yes, now you are the person who started. Maybe you have like serial businesses, but that's not a real job. You've created a good income and stuff, but you like as long as you don't have a signed document that says I work here, you don't have a real job. So so that's why now I because I used to have like I was employed as a 9-to-5 as a, what do you call this, merchandiser. I was looking for a proper word. I was employed as a merchandiser since 2009 until 2016. So that means I had a real job. Then I yes, I had a real job because I was employed by
that, Percy.
Pardon?
We will dispute that.
No, according to the society, I had. So now I took a risk. Now, like this is when I had to think out of this norm of me waking up thinking what will people say. So this purple, I mean pink things are like they are flowers. They are beautiful. So the stigmas are like they are beautiful, man. Like if we have. If you are in a group of people who get drunk every day, they're like super drunk. So when you within the group, it looks beautiful. But the thing is, it's a stigma now that you are supposed to be drunk because you're with this group. But then how do you grow yourself? And now the only way for you to outgrow, I mean, to reach your potential is to outgrow the circle. So that's when now the bed has to come out. So the bed is yours, actually. It's a representation of your faith. So now you've been caged, your faith has been caged. Now, for you to become your ultimate self, you need to break through that cage and then realize all the potentials that are out there. So that's where now all these people who are used to the traditional jobs and the real jobs, they tend to oppose you that what you are doing is wrong. What you are doing is not safe and what. But then you realize that once you go out of the comfort zone, you slowly become your ultimate self. That's why you become happy. I believe as a human being, we are not meant to do the same thing for more than 20 years or even 10 years. If you do the same thing for the longest time, eventually you feel like you're trapped. And then that's why you find people who say, you find me in this job and then you leave me in this job. That's because now they are trapped there. But then once they realize that the reason why they are not happy is that because they already know what they're going to do in the next 2 years. So you shouldn't live like that. As a human being, you are meant to grow. As the word said, you need to morph out of whatever situation you are in. So once you become something for the longest time, you feel like you are a god of that thing, but you can never be a god because now you have already exhausted all the information that you need to learn. So this is me becoming my reaching my full potential. That's when I became an artist, and then took the risk of leaving my job and then coming to August House and then meeting all these people who are consciously moving towards where I'm going, even though we might have no, different ideas, but at least we are going towards, we are growing towards the same thing. So now at least I'm in a society where I can enable my inner potential. And then also once I outgrow this, the thing is you always outgrow. Once you realize that you outgrown something, you need to move on. So if you don't move on, you become like a god. I'm a god here. You'll find me here, you'll leave me here.
Leave me here. True, hey?
Yeah. There's something incredibly wonderful about this juxtaposition of almost the analogy that is required from the abstraction of the works presented. Sorry, let me just go back to a screen. Oh, no. To a screen, forgive me. To a screen which kind of talks about the literal also rendition of readings, and also the abstract rendition of readings, and that there is a literal aspect in your work, Percy, and there is, when you place yourself as the character, whether that is known or unknown to the viewer, it's somewhat secondary, but there is a vulnerability and openness about speaking to the journey that everyone is traveling through, the shifts that they're encountering, that nothing is static, nothing is one-dimensional, and yet it kind of is at the same time, because I mean, there we are talking about, terminology such as a real job or a 9-to-5, and that is also so fluid. How is it that we identify within those moments, and what is gainful employment, and what is gainful employment? Aren't we gainfully employed because we are in a position, and in a sense, in the luxury of also stating what it is we think, we believe we are, in so many ways, that in essence the 9-to-5 limits others to state? I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely very, very content in the fact that I have the luxury to explore this with you, and when I say the luxury, I mean in that we endeavor in talking about these topics. Because nothing is static. It's all evolving. It's ever emerging. It's fluid. It's liquid. It's all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I think through life, we go through different phases, and looking at the same artwork according to your bagage, your knowledge over the years, your state of mind, it opens up new perspectives on the same, on that
Absolutely.
same flat, two-dimensional, three-dimensional, representation of life, etc.
Metaphysical as well,
Yeah.
which is also kind of how it all brings me back to circle into all the topics and all the acts that were depicted in this show. Strategies of being and monologues and contemplations and metamorphosis. These are all acts and phases in all of our lives, and how they're depicted is how they're depicted. The medium is just an option that is presented here in this series of conversations.
Yes, the medium is an option.
Yeah.
I don't actually believe since I became a full-time artist. I've learned that we not to embrace the medium but the story behind, because that's when I've learned to use sand. So
Absolutely,
yeah.
the medium is just the language. It's just the vehicle.
Yes, that's when I started using sand and salt and sand. I'm like, okay, I'll take these simple things that we've been like the salt we've been putting in our rugs forever, but then I'll give it more meaning. So now when you see the salt as an art piece, so it provokes a certain some hidden senses. Yes, a conversation, and then I get to take I literally took sand from Mandela's what do you call this, Mandela Square, PE. Like beach sand, and then I started producing artworks. I'm like, this is not about the art, what I'm using. It's about the story that I'm telling. That's why I'm saying once we pass on this world, people need to talk about the works. So we're not doing this to make your house look nice. Yes, might be part of that, but there should be a bigger story than that. So when you buy an art piece, make sure the art piece is meant to change your the generation that's to come, whether it's financially or whether it's spiritually or conversationally, as long as it can change something.
Yes.
I do think that the material also adds to enhance and speak to the meaning that is intended behind the work. No?
Yeah,
Bumble,
definitely.
how do you feel about all of this?
Are we still here?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm saying, please repeat that.
I was saying, Bumble, what it is that you think about the conversation that has kind of evolved out of this presentation, and that the meaning and the story behind, according to Percy, is almost more important than the materials with which you work. I think it's a combination. Percy thinks that the story is more prevalent, not that he discards the materials.
I mean, there's a lot of angles to look at it. I totally agree with Percy. I think also myself as an artist, I had to really choose how I want to be remembered as an artist. How I want people to talk about me as an artist. What change did I bring into not just the art world, but into the society and the world as whole. So it's, for me, my angle was survival. How do I survive? Having this not real job. How do I make it? I used to paint children faces, which are easy to sell. They simple. They happy. They playful. People will easily live with the child's face that says nothing, compared to having a social issue on the wall. So I got to a point where I had to decide that, it's either I paint faces and make more money, and have no meaning behind my work, because I really did not have anything to say about them. But when I started, they just, I did a commission where it led to, one thing led to another, and people started really giving me commissions to do faces. Then you start, you start getting into it, and you make quick money, and you feel like you're on top of the world. But end of the day, that's not how I want to be known as an artist. I had to like put a full stop into that and start looking at what I personally think would make a mark, will leave a mark in this art industry and in this world. Hence I'm talking about the social issues currently. So it's true, at the end of the day, it's not about the material you use, but it's what behind the material. It's what are you trying to say? What are you putting out there as an artist? Because I feel as artists, obviously we're here to address issues. We're here to create change, So yeah, I had to like really look at my career as an artist, think about the money, the quick money, and think about my future as an artist, and how I want to be remembered. How am I going to be used, as a study material, for the next generation with what I'm doing? I had like such questions. So hence I totally agree with Percy.
Yeah, there is the reference and archival nature of your practices that become frames of reference for societal issues, existential issues, all sorts of issues. But yeah, but having said all of this, I mean, how often does one have the luxury of interfacing with an artist? And how much is conveyed purely by the image, and how much is conveyed through conversation, which in essence was where the pinnacle of this conversation, this exhibition was all about, of having parallel conversations embodied in the different acts that in essence are so broad and so intimate and so pivotal and so prevalent, in the sense that they're here, they're now, they're issues we all experience, the intimacy, the duality, the struggle, the impetus, the let's shake off ideas of conformity, all sorts. And I think that this entire exhibition, even by its very title, as much as it might have sounded a bit convoluted and self-important, an exhibition in several acts, a lexigram of ideas, it really is about postulating what is now, what is current, what is ongoing, and what evolves, because nothing is static. Gentle lady and ladies and men and others, I would like to kind of round off this conversation by kind of thanking the people that made this whole show possible. Sara, Hallatt. I mean, we tend to find ourselves in these gratitude moments of thank yous and thank yous. Sara, thank you very much for making this possible, for rendering another platform for presentation and re-representation of what is happening in August House. Krista, for asking us to think outside of the cube and just the two-dimensional presentation and the three-dimensional presentation without triggers. Yolanda, for being incredibly present and helpful. I mean, the Meta Foundation, of which you represent, August House, with all of its members and all of its flux and ins and outs and the dynamism that it renders. I mean, over 50 artists, right, Sara?
That is correct. Over 50
that is not a small group.
No, I stand to be corrected, but I think we are currently the largest studio space in the country. And
wow.
may well be actually in the continent. It's They're very.
Well, let's find this out with statistics.
I do.
And of course, Quorum Group in Gauteng for the funding that was made available to make this happen.
Yes, yeah, so very much. Just sorry, Maria. Before you move on, I'd very much like to thank Gauteng Provincial Government. I mean, it's been a complicated COVID year where funding has been very strange and very weird. But they have allowed us the opportunity. Originally, this was only supposed to be an online exhibition, and through your great forethought and Krista's really interesting ideas, we've managed to like pull off more than we ever anticipated. I'd like to very much thank Natty from Quorum, who helped us put together the 3D tour that exists on the website of the show. If anyone has missed the physical thing, there is a 3D immersive tour of the exhibition, which includes lovely little sound clips from each artist. So it's even if you did go to the physical thing, it's a whole other level of integration, I guess. But yes, very much thankful to our funders who have made this possible. And I would also like to thank Maria, who has done so much hard work on this particular project, especially since it's coming to an end. It has been a big professional milestone for me to be able to work with her, and I've enjoyed it thoroughly, and I'm hoping that she will stay a friend and come back and work with us in
to many more, Sarah, to many more.
But yeah, I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and obviously to all the artists, because without the actual artwork, it doesn't matter what Maria and Kristia think. It all comes down to you guys like being freaking awesome, and availing yourselves every time we've had a panel discussion, and yeah, just being so available. I really appreciate that. So sorry, that's my 2 cents worth. I am going to share the also for anyone who's missed it. I'm going to share the link for the 3D immersive tour in the chat. So please go and have a look. Yeah.
I also just want to, I just would like to thank all organizers and artists, I mean, for this fantastic experience. And I really enjoyed sharing my ideas, my work with you all. And I mean, since that Sara has been taking over has been present, I think you've done a lot more than you promised to do. And I'm really impressed, honestly. And Maria, it was really fascinating how you approached that whole process of getting together, thinking about the concept, about the selection of artworks, and so it was really enriching for myself. And it was a pleasure to meet all these very interesting artists that will certainly become, we start visiting each other, hopefully, at August House, and having more discussion on our possible subjects. So thank you all, guys.
Thank you all, because you have been pivotal to this entire exercise. I mean, all the other extras and thank yous, the thank you is to you, because you are it. You are the content. And your thoughts and your expressions are absolutely fundamental. Thank you, Percy. Thank you, Bambo. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Roland. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Roger that. Roger that. Yeah, we're good to go.
We're good to go.
So much, guys.
Oh, thanks, and
take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And thanks for watching to the audience.
Watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching.